Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Vino Krishnan, Regional Manager Commercial Sector AWS Middle East and North Africa.
Good morning, Dubai. Welcome to the AWS Summit. We are so excited to have you all here with us today. Thank you for taking time for us. Like we always say, AWS Summits is not a sales and conference. These are learning, education events for you to learn about AWS, our partners, and most importantly, hear from our customers and your peers. We are very fortunate to have many of our customers talking about their cloud journey with us today. We have over 2,500 attendees in this conference. We will have multiple tracks, 25 of them through the day. We will have almost 24 partner solutions being showcased. So please, go through the schedule, plan your day ahead. Our team has worked very hard to put together a very strong agenda. Pick the topics that appeal most to you and plan your day ahead. Let's have a look at the agenda once more. We start with the keynote in a short while. We break for lunch at 12. It also gives you an opportunity to visit the expo area. We reassemble back at 1 for the track sessions. We wrap the day at 5:15 with a short networking event. Let me take a moment to thank our sponsors, Intel, VMware Cloud Health, Datadog, and Veeam for their support to make the summit happen. I have a short video from Intel for you to watch.
The world is a wild and unpredictable place. And isn't that absolutely amazing? Products can catch fire overnight. A back of a napkin idea can change the world. An incurable disease can suddenly appear vulnerable. So many wonderfully improbable, never-before-possible breakthroughs are out there, waiting to be discovered. With Amazon Web Services and Intel, you'll be ready for anything. Ready to unlock a human genome, to safeguard our most valuable assets, to improve the way we communicate, to give every human a chance at a better future. to reach new speeds. Because you'll have Amazon Web Services featuring custom Intel technology to drive cutting-edge advancements. Because AWS and Intel engineers have worked together for over a decade to make sure you'll be ready. And because you'll have AWS's most innovative and powerful cloud service platform to help you make the impossible possible. That is the power of AWS with Intel. So go ahead, shatter conventions, explore the unknown, and ask questions that haven't been answered. With Amazon Web Services and Intel, you can charge toward the future, ready for anything, and ready to change everything.
I also want to thank our partners in the region for their support and help. As I said, they have their solutions being demonstrated at the expo area. Please do visit them and check them out. Once again, thank you for spending the time with us today. With that, please join me to welcome to the stage the Chief Technology Officer for Amazon, Dr. Werner Vogels.
Thank you. Good morning, Dubai. Oh, come on. Come on. Good morning. Go. Hey. Yeah. Some energy. I guess you guys didn't watch the football last night, eh? I did. Ajax. Okay, fine. Thank you all for coming here. Just like Vinod said, the most important for summits is that this is a learning day, an educational day. Yeah, where many of the technical sessions that I hope you'll enjoy, that you enjoy the Deep Racer League that will be going on. And I think most importantly, I hope that you meet the people that are sitting next to you. Because I think there's nothing more important than learning from your peers. Quite a few of you here are already AWS users, but maybe quite a few are also new to AWS. And instead of hearing our stories, I think it is equally important to hear the stories from your peers. And at the same time, I'd like to urge you to give us feedback, to tell us what we're doing right, that we're not doing right, what are the kind of features that you would like to see, new services. It is crucial to us, the relationship with our customers, because you drive our roadmap. 95% of the features and services delivered in the past 2-3 years came from direct feedback from our customers. And so please keep doing that, because that will make AWS even much better than what it is today. And so we've been active in the region for quite a while now. Many, even tens of thousands of businesses here in MENA are actually already making use of AWS. And actually, I'd like to say Mabruk to Kareem on their recent acquisition by Uber, and actually having been in business that has grown up on the cloud. And I think Kareem, who is very fortunate that will be on stage later as well, will tell you that without cloud, they would not have been able to build their business. There's a recent report from Harvard Business Review that says the number of investments in young businesses have grown by 3 to 4x just because of the existence of AWS. So around the world, I think every vertical these days is making use of AWS, and it definitely goes here for the region as well. And it's just, we've been making major investments here. Yeah, it's not only that we've been building offices and teams around the region, and these teams are not just sales or account management, we put a heavy emphasis on technical support. Solution architects are available for you to help you with your architectures. And out in the expo hall, go talk to our AWS staff there. if you need help with your architecture. Or just give us a call. Drop us a note. We're more than happy to help you really making sure that you are as reliable, as secure, at the lowest cost point possible. We also invest quite a bit in cloud skills development because we're convinced that given all the digital transformation that many companies are going through, cloud skills are going to be on top of the list for every possible engineer. And so we're investing here with AWS Educate into the universities and also in many other skills development groups. Entrepreneurship remains important. I think young businesses are truly the future of the world. If you look at household names that we hear today, whether it's Airbnb or Dropbox or Uber or Pinterest or Slack or whatever, all of these companies have grown up on the cloud. And they're all household names today. So there's a great movement in entrepreneurship, and we're more than happy to support that. Program called AWS Activate that will make credits available for engineers or for entrepreneurs to use, as well as support by our engineers, as well as from partners, and bringing all these things together to make sure you can get off the ground in the easiest way possible. We've been also investing significantly in the local infrastructure. We recently launched our 2 edge locations here, an ability to have direct connect directly here in the region to make sure you have very fast connections directly into the cloud. And of course, in the coming months, we'll launch the Middle East Bahrain infrastructure region such that all of you will have low latency access. And I know all of you are Fortnite players. You really want this region tomorrow. Yeah? We're working really hard to get it into your hands as quickly as possible. Well, no Fortnite players here? Really? Liars? Come on, I die within 5 minutes. Yeah? You must be doing much better than that. So, if you look at the AWS Global Infrastructure, we have, 20 regions around the world at the moment, 61 availability zones. So in an availability zone, each region consists of 3 or more availability zones. So an availability zone, you should see that as the easiest way to look at it is that it's one data center, but it's not. It can be multiple data centers, very close together. But the region consists of multiple availability zones where each of those zones are connected to different power grids, to different tier 1 networks, are in different geological zones to make sure that all of these zones are truly independent of each other and you can build highly available, highly reliable applications. There's 5 more regions coming online, Bahrain in the coming months, but also Hong Kong, Cape Town, Milan, and one more. Yeah, okay, thank you. So we're driving innovation in AWS. Yeah? Definitely here in the region, literally tens of thousands of active customers here that are already making use of AWS even before the local region arrived here. Companies like Butikat and Sara, or enterprises like Fly Dubai and the Altair Group, or public sector organizations like the University of Bahrain and the Central Bank of Bahrain. All of them innovating, making use of AWS. And indeed, all these household names that you know from around the world are built using AWS. And so there's a reason for that. And I think the biggest reason is that we are so closely connected to our customers that we're able to build the next generation tools that you want. And what I mean by that is, in the past, IT providers would give you everything in the kitchen sink and would tell you, this is how you shall develop software. I believe if you do that, you come up with the tools that you were thinking about 5 years ago. Right? Basically, you get 2012 development or something like that. That's not how you build in the cloud. That's not how you build modern digital systems. Such as AWS, we have very strong belief that we should give you the tools so that you can decide which of those tools you want to use to build exactly those applications and systems that you want to build. Always compare that a little bit, that some will give you a prefabricated house. Yeah, that's how the IT vendors used to work. Maybe you can give the house a different color, maybe you can move a few walls inside the house, but it's pre-built for you. In AWS, we give you the tools to build exactly the house that you want to build. As crazy, as beautiful, as big as you want, and in the way that you want. It's also important because I think not even that the tools are new, the way that we develop software becomes new. And that's very fast moving. And as such, we're working very closely with our customers to make sure we're building really those tools that you need to build the house that you want to build. For that, it's important to have a very big toolbox. We have well over 165 services now in AWS, in all different categories. The days that AWS is just compute storage, databases, security, networking, those days are long gone. You want to build IoT applications, mobile, analytics, machine learning, all of those are available on AWS for you. And let's drill down in a few of these. Look at databases. Yeah, every possible choice of database is available for you. You can pick exactly that database that is useful for that particular task that you have in mind. And of course, around that, there are many management services. The ability to help you migrate from maybe an on-premise database or another relational database that you have in the cloud that you want to go to non-relational. We give you all the tools to move back and forth between those. And the same goes to storage. Yeah, it's not enough to have just block storage. You need to have a whole set of options around it so that you can exactly tweak those volumes in the way that work for you, for your application. I also think that in the past, you would buy hardware. And then you start developing your software to really make sure it will run well on that particular hardware, or that's what you would hope if you didn't make a mistake. These days, you just build your software, and then you go find a model that works with your software. Then you don't have to buy this particular storage engine and then build against it. No, you build your system and then tweak the storage engine to meet your needs. You're in control of this, not the vendors. You exactly have those tools that you need. And there's nothing more important, I think, in all of this than in security. Yeah, I think many of us in all sorts of different businesses are subject to compliance. And we need to be able to help you achieve compliance or make sure you can stay compliant. And for that, we have a whole range of automated tools available for you. Amazon Inspector, for example, will continuously inspect your environment whether you are still in compliance with regulation X, Y, or Z. And especially that becomes important if you do continuous integration, continuous development, where maybe you do releases 10 or 20 or maybe 100 times a day to make sure that you do not introduce new vulnerabilities into your service. Definitely making use, for example, of machine learning to understand how the access patterns are against your account and then start giving you alarms when we see things that are out of the ordinary with guard duty. Or actually inspect what kind of data you have, although we don't do that, of course you do that. And then look at what are the normal access patterns for that data. And then again, signal you if those access patterns start to change. All of those automated tools are crucial. And in all of that, there's probably nothing more important than encryption. 116 of those services that do indeed store data have all encryption enabled in them. And with many of them, you can bring your own keys, meaning that you are the only ones who are in control, who has access to your data. Nobody else. Not AWS, nobody else. You hold the keys to that. And I think that's really important because, for example, if you take Redshift, Redshift encrypts every data block with a random key, always. And then the set of random keys gets encrypted with a master key. We can generate the master key for you, that's fine. But you can also bring your own master key. That means that you are the only one who decides who has access to your data and nobody else. Now, security is extremely important for many of our customers, especially those customers that come out of the financial services world. So here, Sara helps people make investments through its automated investment platform and financial advisors. Sara is the first platform to receive the innovation testing license by the Dubai Financial Services Authority, so that they can offer their investment services to UAE residents. They chose AWS to maintain growth without compromising on availability, protection, and security. It's a pleasure to have me on stage, Nadine Metzer, the co-founder of Sara. Nadine. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nadine Mezher. I am co-founder at Sara, and I'm here today to tell you about our company and to tell you the story of Sara. But first, let me please tell you another small story, that of Raquel. Raquel is a 25-year-old young professional who is making good money. And Raquel managed to actually save some of her money and put it aside. Now, someone told Raquel that she needs to be investing it in order for it to grow. But Raquel doesn't know much about trading or which platform to use or how to exactly start about it. So her other option is to actually go to financial advisors. But in the region, financial advice is extremely expensive. And in any case, Raquel doesn't even hit the minimum requirement. So Raquel, financial services and investing in general is very complicated and very intimidating. Also, another thing I want you to know about Raquel is that she's extremely busy. So she's a young professional who works hard. She's also very price sensitive. So whenever she shops for anything, she compares prices. And at the same time, she's digitally savvy. Raquel spends most of her time either on her laptop or on her mobile. Why Raquel? So Raquel summarizes an entire generation in the region of young professionals who are actually trying to better their life. They're looking for a solution to be able to invest their money and grow it, whether it's to save for their education, whether it is to buy a house or to build a family, or just all in all to invest in a better future. So it's really a young generation that's looking for a solution when it comes to investing their money and growing their money. And so Sara was born. And Sara is the brainchild of my partners, Mark Shahwan and Jad Sayer, who are here with you today, and myself, and together we build a platform that is intuitive, easy to use, and extremely accessible for everyone. What is Sara? Sara is the fastest growing online financial advisor in the region. We are all about smart investing. What does that mean? Basically, you go on our website and within minutes, you're able to get a diversified recommended portfolio of exchange-traded funds that is based on your risk profile and your risk appetite. So it's tailored to your needs. But at the same time, Sara is all about simple investing and simple signups. So we've done the entire onboarding online using smart technology and proven investment strategies. We do facial recognitions, and you can go full on from being just on the website to being fully onboarded within a few minutes. And Sara offers a hybrid model, meaning that you have access to financial advisors on demand whenever you need to. We do all this at a very low fee and a very low account minimum of only $500. Now, we have this amazing MVP, and we wanted to go to market as soon as possible and as fast as possible. So we needed a solution that helps us execute very, very quickly, especially in a very changing environment that keeps innovating all the time. And at the same time, we are the first to receive the innovation testing license by the DFSA, and we actually managed to graduate out of the license in a very short time into a full license, which means we were scaling very quickly, and we know more than 30% month-on-month growth. At this rate, scaling was extremely important for us in a seamless manner. So we're looking for a solution to do so, while at the same time ensuring protection and availability of our data and our clients' information, because we operate in a heavily regulated environment. So I'm telling you all this to tell you that Sara, from the get-go, was born in the cloud. What does that mean? So to us, we started using AWS services initially as soon as our company was born. And we were using these services such as EC2 and Lambda and Elastic Beanstalk to be able to do the setup as fast as possible and to start operating as soon as possible. And at the same time, for us, data management obviously is extremely important, and storage, so we're using services such as RDS and S3 and CloudWatch and all these amazing AWS services that allow us to ensure data availability and storage and protection, just like I said, because it's extremely important for us that we have that flexibility. And at the same time, Sara was always looking to basically innovate. So we're looking to provide our clients with new products all the time. So in the pipeline, of course, we are looking to use more and more of the AWS services, such as CloudTrail and CloudFront, and other services that we have in the pipeline. Now, why am I telling you all this? Our take on early stages startups and early stages company is that it's extremely important for us to rely on a cloud provider. Our product may be unique, your product may be unique, but your infrastructure does not need to. So what's extremely important is to actually be able to share that solution with the world as soon as you can, and to scale as soon as you can, and using these services that just allow you to do that. We don't need to focus on engineering perfection. What we need to focus really is on actually getting a product that speaks to clients' needs and speaks to our market and answers that need in the market. So basically, what our recommendation would be is to just allow the cloud and allow the internet to help you do just that and be able to change the status quo within the industry you operate within. Just like for Sara, we were able to do that and change the status quo within the wealth management and the wealth advisory industry. That's how these services can help you get there. At the end of the day, it's like Dr. Werner liked to call us. We are internet-scaled companies. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great story, great story. Thank you. Yeah, many of us are subject to compliance. And security plays, of course, a very important role in that. But I think we need to go one step further than that. If you look at all the data breaches and security breaches of the past 3-4 years, it's clear that we need to take a different approach to security. Yeah, I think the days when security was executed just by a security team, do the development for 6 months, security team comes in, does a review, sprinkles some magic over it, and you're allowed to run your application. Modern development is not like that anymore. Modern development is continuously developing, continuous integration, continuous deployment. You need to make changes to your whole pipeline. You need to make sure that you are always secure. And that means it's no longer the responsibility of the security team. All of us need to take responsibility for security. And only then can we actually really handle the threats of a modern data architecture and the digital future that we have. Now, if I think about all the different areas that AWS is active in, one that's really important for our customers, especially those that have already an existing infrastructure, is how to migrate your existing applications into the cloud. And there's a whole range of business reasons why you'd want to do that. That goes all the way from wanting to have a more elastic infrastructure, maybe getting rid of hardware refresh cycles. But most importantly, it is actually productivity improvement and agility that rank high with our customers why they are moving over to AWS. And actually, at this moment, pretty quickly, the #1 reason for migrating your infrastructure from your own data centers or your colo locations into AWS is security. The kind of threats that we see are continuously evolving. There is no line in the sand that says this is good enough security. That's a line that's continuously moving. AWS forever will make security their #1 investment area. The kind of investments that we're able to make, no other enterprise is able to make. And you see companies like banks like Capital One moving over to AWS and have as one of their main reasons is that we can give them security and protection that they would never be able to achieve themselves. To be able to move from your own infrastructure over to AWS, we need to give you help there. So we build a whole range of different tools for you. The database migration service allows you to migrate any type of database from on-premise into the cloud. And it doesn't need to be to the same type of database, because it's moving from relational over to DynamoDB, key value store, or moving over from Oracle over to MySQL. All of those can be done for you and helping you there with the database migration service. But moving data is always a challenge. And as such, we need to make sure that we give you all the different tools and mechanisms that you can use to actually pick exactly how you want to move your data. And that is, if that's through Amazon S3 transfer acceleration, where you can make use of the local endpoints to really immediately connect to the Amazon global network and move your data very fast into S3, or Kinesis Firehose, or Kinesis video streams, or if you have so much data that it would take a long time to transfer this over any network, we give you the snowball devices. They come on premise, you load them up with your data, you send them back to AWS, we load it into your account. We have customers that have continuously 8 or 10 of these snowball devices on premise. You even can do pre-processing on those devices now. Or if you really have exabytes of data, you have this massive truck or snowmobile that will drive up to your data center, will plug the fiber in, and empty your data center in a matter of days, and then move that over to AWS. Quite a few customers have done that already. It's not just about data migration, of course, it's also about applications. How can we help you make sure that the applications that are running in your data center are easily moved over to AWS? And as such, for example, we have to work together with VMware to make sure that the way that you're already doing virtualization on premise is easily moved over to AWS. Or many of you are running Windows Server in your data centers. Actually, AWS hosts twice as many Windows Server instances in the cloud as that Azure does. Microsoft servers are a significant business for AWS, and many of you are taking advantage there of the features and services that we offer there. And it's, for example, one of the reasons why the Bahrain Economic Development Board is migrating all of its Windows workloads over to AWS. We have lots of experience now with many of our enterprises moving over to AWS, and want to make sure that we can help all our other customers that are interested in that to be successful as well. And so, for example, we created a whole cloud adoption framework. We have an AWS migration acceleration program that helps you with all sorts of structures around what's the best way to migrate your applications over to AWS. And helps you investigate what's the sequence in which things need to happen. mostly driven by what is the business reasons why you're migrating, and as such from that, create a timeline in how you can best migrate over to AWS. In all of this, hybrid plays an important role because it's not like overnight you will move all your applications into AWS. So for a long time, probably or quite some time, you will live in both worlds. Yeah, and for example, take a company like News Corp. They have 54 data centers around the world and want to bring that back to 5. That's not going to happen overnight. So we need to give you the tools and mechanisms to make sure that you can live safely in both worlds. Yeah, and whether that is using Direct Connect, yeah, or VMware Cloud on AWS, or AWS Outpost. Outpost is a service that is in private preview at the moment, where basically you can run a part of AWS's infrastructure on-premise. It's important for those organizations, for example, that have a cloud-first strategy and are building new AWS applications on AWS, but need low latency access to maybe to a database that still sits on-premise. In all of this, VMware Cloud plays an important role. It makes it easy to move back and forth. And we see tremendous momentum for VMware on AWS. There's many organizations have invested significantly in the management of VMware instances and do not want to lose that kind of investment. And with VMware Cloud on AWS, you can keep that investment and have a single pane of glass how you manage your instances. If I look how development is changing or how our architectures are changing, I think the biggest movement that we're seeing is something that I at Amazon, the retailer, have gone through about 10, 15 years ago. And that moved to microservices. The way that we used to develop our software was basically as a big block of software where all the teams work on together. Now, that doesn't really scale that well. Or more importantly, there may be components in there that have different scaling requirements from each other, or different security requirements. At one moment, we had decomposed the whole Amazon monolith into a service-oriented architecture, but there's still very big blocks in there. And one of them was the customer master service. That was the service, all the code that operated on customer data. They sit basically in one big software component. Part of that was what was called the recognized customer service. Basically, a piece of software that is hit on every page. In that same software component also sat the address book. And the address book was something that was only needed on checkout. Yet that whole component needed to scale at the highest scale of the login service, needlessly replicating the address book service with it. So really doing a deeper functional decomposition into what we now these days call microservices really drove us to a point where we could create much higher reliability, much better scale, at much lower cost. So moving these into a microservices world where each of those microservices has their own unique scaling and reliability and security requirements is definitely something that we see many of our customers doing at this moment as well. So, of course, you need to give you good support in the compute world for that. And you have 3 different ways of doing compute these days. You have the traditional instances, containers, and serverless. Now, if I look at our instance types, I think there is no one that has a broader and deeper platform of choice for instances. Well over 190 different types of instances. And so whether you want burstable, whether you want high I/O, high memory, so access to GPUs, all of these are available for you. And you can pick exactly those tools, those instance types that work really well for your particular application. And this is important. Yeah, in the past, you would develop software, and maybe you would think, well, this is likely to be CPU bound. And then you start running it, you buy hardware for it, you start running it, turns out they're I/O bound and not CPU bound. Yeah? Then you would be toast because you already bought the hardware. In the case of AWS, you just try a different instance type until you really get the one where you can really optimize for your environment at the lowest cost possible. I think instances mostly are focused on running sort of these monoliths or prepackaged applications or software that you had already developed. I think if you do move to microservices, containers are probably the better platform to go about, yeah? Where you basically do versioning and immutability and move things around. So we built a number of years ago already the Elastic Container Service. That makes it very easy for you to develop your containers, but most importantly, it has very deep integration with all of the other AWS services. Now, many of you are interested in developing maybe on-premise as well as in the cloud. And for those of you who are looking at containers there, Kubernetes probably is the better choice. So we developed the Elastic Kubernetes service that helps you with running your Kubernetes applications in the cloud. And most importantly, we take away much of the heavy lifting for you. For example, the master service within Kubernetes is made highly available and highly reliable in AWS so that you don't have to worry about that. One thing that I've noticed with both ECS and EKS is that quite a few of our customers still have to do a lot of heavy lifting, mostly managing the server environment underneath their containers, the clusters, which is just heavy lifting. It doesn't make your applications better. And as such, we decided to build AWS Fargate, which helps you run your container services without having to worry about servers, clusters, and it scales seamlessly. It has a deep integration with ECS at this moment and EKS in the future. And we have many of our customers that are running significant container workloads on AWS. Yeah, for example, the Saudi-based Almo Safar is one of the largest online travel agencies in the Middle East. And they went to a microservices architecture for over 70% of their applications within 6 months. And used EKS to manage more than 1,000 containers in the cloud, improving their performance, application performance, by well over 3x. Another interesting company making use of containers is McDonald's. Yeah, McDonald's is arguably the world's largest restaurant chain. 37,000 locations, 64 million customers a day. So they built a home delivery service using microservices and containers on top of AWS to scale to 20,000 orders a second with under 100 millisecond latency. It's pretty impressive. I think the drive towards even less management of your environment is to make use of serverless compute. Now, serverless is something that we've been doing for a long time already at AWS. If you look at services like DynamoDB or SNS or SQS, all of those, or S3, all of you don't think about where are they running. You don't think about the reliability over multiple availability zones. You don't think about the scaling. All of these things are taken care of for you. With instances and containers, you still have to worry about the infrastructure. Where they run, how they run. With Lambda, you don't have to think about that at all. You just write your code, drop it somewhere, and AWS does the true serverless approach there. With running it in multiple availability zones, taking care of the scaling, the reliability, and the performance of your applications. And we are quickly seeing that customers are starting to build applications that have no servers involved at all. Yeah, this is a good example. This is HomeAway. It's an organization, a travel organization that manages sort of Airbnb-style home rentals. But what happens there is they actually, I think, have to manage about 6 million images uploaded every month. And all of these images need to be processed in 20 different formats. And so they wanted to make sure that that was as efficient as possible, and that they didn't need to run a whole battery of EC2 instances just in case images were going to be uploaded. So as you can see, in this whole architecture, there is no servers at all. It's all DynamoDB, it's S3, it's all Lambda. All of those, making sure that they only have to pay for that execution that really happens, and not because they've been running these EC2 instances for the coming 5 hours. So we have a significant number of serverless customers. Here in the region, OSN is a pay TV network and an anti-piracy advocate who scans and takes down pirated materials. And they make use of AWS Lambda to deploy images built by CodeBuild that really sort of can scale their services to the needs that they have. It's very interesting, by the way, given that Lambda, which we launched 5 years ago by now, I had expected that the first pickup of that would be happening by sort of young technology companies. It turns out that enterprises immediately knew exactly what to do with a serverless environment, because you actually creates the scale and reliability for you, and you only have to pay for your execution. That was a way too good deal for many enterprises, and we see significant pickup by all of our enterprise customers making use of serverless technologies. So one of our customers here, StarsPlay, is a subscription video on-demand service available in 19 countries throughout MENA. They scale to 1 million customers using containers on AWS, and now have standardized on AWS Fargate for their ECS container strategy, making sure that they never have to worry about servers again. It's a pleasure to me to have on stage Salim Bhatti, the CTO of StarsPlay. Salim.
It's a big crowd. Good morning, and thank you, Werner. My name is Salim, and I'm CTO at StarsPlay. We're a homegrown, Dubai-based, native subscription video on-demand service provider, and we're available in 20 countries, including Pakistan. We have over 10,000 hours of awesome content from these major studios. You can see behind me, also from Bollywood and Hollywood. And Arabic content as well. We license TV shows and movies from all these studios, including Stars originals that play exclusively on starsplay.com. Those shows include Power and Counterpart, which just recently came on the platform. Very happy with those shows. Please go sign up and watch them. They're awesome. I love them. So we're the biggest streaming provider in the region by number of subscribers and revenue. That's over 1 million subscribers to date and counting. So a few questions came up early on when we were thinking, okay, we got to set up a service. How do we go about doing this? What are the questions we need to ask ourselves? So the build versus buy is the first question. Can we really put all of this together? What does that really include? So there's video engineering, there's content workflows to get right, to put into place, there's content management, video content management, CDNs, there's monetization systems, billing, CRM, collections, e-commerce, marketing tech, the apps that go on all of the devices, the data ecosystem, the ETL processes and everything else, networks and sysops. So we're looking at a multi-million dollar, multi-year project, which wasn't going to work for us. We'd miss our launch window. So we went with the best of breed approach, where we did whatever we could internally ourselves and then outsourced the rest of the work. So underlaying all of this was AWS, of course, all the way from S3 services to ECS. Sorry, I'm going to go back here. I just messed up there. I've got a few more things to say. So one of the bigger challenges here, one of the two coming on the other slide, was streaming. Video streaming in this region is very challenging. So what does that really include? So I'm going to go through the life of a video file. Huge files, 5 gigabytes per second data stream download if you were going to do it raw. We have to ingest those files into our S3 buckets and then start to optimize. By optimization, I mean transcode. Transcode down to a format that worked as a new master file. We transcoded those files down to 15 megabytes per second, still too large for home and still too large for your smartphones. We further transcoded those files down into different profiles, all the way from 5 megabytes download speed second, which is okay for your home and Wi-Fi, all the way down to 200 kilobytes a second for your smartphones. Then we added this relevant streaming protocol around each of those files, so it could be ingested into your various application family, whether it be iOS, Android, or the various TV variants. Then we add DRM security around each of those files. We're almost ready to play. So when you do press play, a couple more processes happen. One is that we start chunking the file. We start splitting the file up into 2 or 10-second chunks, depending on the device it's going to. And then we start streaming the file. When you stop pressing play, it goes to the origin server on S3, gets streamed out through AWS CloudFront as one CDN. The other CDN is our own, which is StarsPlay Connect, we call it, and we have a couple of other private public CDN, in our stack. And that happens every hour, every minute, and every second of the day to over 1 million subscribers we have on our platform. That's huge. And all of this tech and infrastructure behind me, you can see, is all contributing towards that, and it's massive workflow. I'm not going to go through it all. It's really too much. It needs an entirely separate show for that. The other question was, if we build it, they'll come, right? And they'll pay with a credit card. Do people pay with a credit card in this region? Much? Really? I know, for example, I certainly take the cash payment on delivery method every time. Even though there's a credit card available, I always do card. I shouldn't. I should know better. I should be helping fellow e-commerce companies out there. So how are we going to get around the fact that people don't always pay with a credit card in the region? We had to integrate with all of these telcos you see behind me across all of these countries, sometimes multiple telcos within country, to get the reach. Everybody has a smartphone and a data package, and everybody has some form of TV at home as well. So that was the quickest way for us to get around and do that. We also stream over managed networks, IPTV, or content over IPTV managed networks within 4 telcos across the regions. I believe we're the only SVOD OTT that does that. So how does Amazon help? It really does. So we started to build everything, all of our integrations and some of our apps and some of our flows on a monolith, an ESB, which is all fine and great for speed to market, and it really helped us to get out there fast. However, when we wanted to scale a particular service in that ESB, in that monolith, we had to scale up the entire platform. That's not going to scale economically or technically moving forward. So in Microservices, we started to roll around and decouple services from the monolith so that they are standalone, independently scaled up, scaled down when they're not used, but most importantly also they fail independently and don't bring the entire platform down. I think you'll agree that's pretty important. We still have, however, a problem when it comes to, not a problem, it's fixed now, I want to say. Connectivity is still a problem in the region. So when we're going out to bill customers and collect from them, and we have to use our cloud billing system, there are micro-cuts in the network, and we fail to collect from people. So what we've done additionally is we've built our collections engines onto Metal, and we've put them inside the telcos, so anytime we do a collections process, it's done from within the network, and the signals are sent to the databases and servers external to that. So we're really looking forward to, as Werner mentioned earlier, we're really looking forward to edge computing, and more importantly, the what's that service called? Forgetting it now. I'll just flail around here on stage a little bit. But all of our backend billing applications are Dockerized and inside of ECS. So we're very happy that we have AWS as a partner that scales, and we can go region to region, fail over to each region at any given time we want to keep that service up and running. And the edge computing servers I was thinking of are called outposts. There we go. So instead of us putting on Metal and managing outside of the AWS ecosystem, as soon as we get outposts, we can start building on AWS infrastructure, put that into the network, and it's all controlled then by one web console. I think that's the important key. It's one console to rule them all, control it all, I should say. So some of the things that we're looking at moving forward, to use more of machine learning and AI. If you've got your buzzword bingo cards out there, we're almost done. Pushing recommendations and personalization, learning of your behaviors on our platform, figuring how we can serve you better with a better user experience when it comes to serving more contextual content that's relevant for you. We're also looking at cryptocurrencies and the blockchain in general. Again, get your buzzword bingo cards out. You're almost there. But that's more, really far in the future. We're heavily into methods of payment. We try and provide as many as we can. We believe cryptocurrencies moving forward will provide a bit more depth for our service in order to get more people on board there. So I think my time is running out now. But have a great show, everybody. Thank you very much for your time. And we'll see you around.
Salim, thank you.
Thank you, Werner.
Yes, we're looking forward to getting Outposts in the hands of everyone. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Yep. So, a crucial part, of course, now that we talked about compute means nothing if you don't have data. Yeah, there's very little compute that is happening that has no data involved at all. In all of that, I think many of us still are running traditional relational databases. Yeah, why? Because that's actually a tool that was available in the 90s and maybe in the early 2000s. Where we really focused on, we have this one hammer that we were using for all our nails. And we see that customers are really interested in moving away from that. Mostly also because we were able to build new technologies. But first and foremost, I think what we see and what we hear from our customers is that these traditional enterprise database vendors are almost using extortion techniques to actually really keep you on board with them. And we hear from many of our enterprise customers that yes, they would like to move from their databases on-premise into the cloud, but not to the same database vendor. Please give us alternative solutions. And many of them are happy to move over to one of the open source databases. But quite a few of those customers actually had security and reliability and scale requirements that couldn't be met by the MySQLs and the MariaDBs and the Postgres of this world. And so a number of years ago, we started thinking about how would a truly modern cloud-native relational database look like? Because most of the relational databases that we know today, including the big enterprise databases, are all built in the 90s. They're all built on old technology. And if you look at sort of how they run, they don't treat storage. Everyone treats a single node with storage attached. And we were starting to think about how could you build a truly cloud-native database if you could just rebuild the whole thing. So we stripped out the caching and storage layers, first out of MySQL and later out of Postgres, such that we could build a truly cloud-native database that immediately replicates over 3 availability zones, with 2 copies in each availability zone. So you get 6 copies of your under all circumstances. There are no other databases that gives you this level of reliability and also this level of scale and performance. And so we built Amazon Aurora, which has programming compatibility with MySQL and Postgres. It's at least 5x faster than any of those. And more importantly, it is 1/10 of the cost of any of the commercial grade databases. So that makes that Aurora has become the fastest growing service in AWS ever. And for here in the region, for example, Al-Nisr, which is one of the oldest publishing houses in the Middle East with more than 5 million monthly readers, Al-Nisr migrated golfnews.com, the biggest English newspaper here in the region, to Amazon Aurora to better handle spike in website traffic. They've since achieved 3x faster load times and 2x faster times to first byte, really driven by the performance of Aurora. Now, what we see is that there is a move away from using relational databases for everything. Most importantly, what we see is that if you really start thinking about data stores, for example, if you need to build a graph of your customers, doing that in a relational database is a big challenge. And so there's a true move towards what I call purpose-built databases. And whether you need graph database or key value store or a document store, or whether you want to have a ledger or you want to have a time series database, all of those are different from each other. And you can pick exactly that database that works for you. And an important database in all of this is DynamoDB. Amazon in 2005 developed Dynamo, which is the first key value store. There's a bit of history behind that. It's mostly because in those days, we were all running on relational databases. That was just your infrastructure. And at one moment, I had my teams do a deep dive on how we were actually using these relational databases. It turns out that within Amazon, the retailer, 70% of all database operations were key value. You could see that because the query only had its primary key, and you would always only get a single row back. So in that case, we thought about, oh, wait, we can build this in a much more purpose-built way, achieving higher scale, higher reliability, at much lower cost. And that resulted in Dynamo. We wrote a paper about that in those days, and it has triggered the whole NoSQL revolution. And so now we have this whole series of databases that are extremely important to our customers, and DynamoDB plays an important role in that. Karim, who you'll hear from shortly, is an internet platform that pioneered ride-hailing here in the region, 120 cities in 15 countries. They were born on AWS. And they stored their driver location information in DynamoDB, and this is used to process 100 million pings a day. So in all of this, if you think about modern development, one thing that I've heard quite a few questions about, let's say in the past 2 years from our customers, is that they would like to use blockchain because they heard they should be using blockchain. So when diving deep with those customers, it actually turns out that they didn't really need blockchain. It's just something they heard, but there was two components in the whole of blockchain that were of interest to them. The biggest group was actually only interested in having an immutable ledger that they could have cryptographical variability about. But they were happy if that would have centralized trust. And then there is those who actually are still looking for a ledger, but are looking for decentralized trust. So we decided for each of them to give those groups of customers exactly what they need. First, we give them QLDB, which is an fully managed ledger that is cryptographically proven that no changes have been made to. And we also give you a managed blockchain that if you want to run your Hyperledger or your Ethereum networks, we can actually help you scale this, give you simple APIs to it, and have you manage all of that. Kareem uses more than DynamoDB. The company uses a wide range of managed databases, including DynamoDB, Elastic Cache to store locations, but also RDS for customer and write data and Elasticsearch for logging and analytics. It's a pleasure to have with me on stage here Magnus Olsen, the co-founder of Kareem.
Good morning. My name is Magnus Olsen, and I'm one of the co-founders of Kareem. It is amazing to be here with all of you guys today. So, Kareem started 7 years ago here in Dubai with the intention of building something meaningful and something big. Our purpose, our mission, the reason we exist, the reason we wake up in the morning, is that we want to simplify and improve the lives of people in the region. And we want to build an awesome organization that inspires. The starting point for us was to build a small corporate car booking service where business customers could come to our website and they could make a pre-scheduled booking for a car. Now, thanks to AWS and our two rockstar engineers, Tafsir and Imad, we were able to go from having this idea to launching and being live in just 6 weeks. So from idea to first revenue dollar in 6 weeks. And I think that's really one of the primary benefits of working with the cloud, that you can massively compress the time to market. Now, 7 years later, we have grown a little bit. We are now operating in 120 cities in the region across 15 countries. We have more than 30 million customers. And most importantly, we have created more than 1 million job opportunities for our captains. This is 1 million captains that can make a living, 1 million captains that can feed their families, and that can put their kids through school. And in line with our purpose of simplifying people's lives, we have expanded beyond ride-hailing. We have gone into buses, we have gone into food delivery, and most recently, we are now expanding into pay. All these services that can help simplify people's life in the region. None of this would have been possible without building a really awesome tech team. And I'm so proud of our tech team. We have about 500 colleagues, data scientists, designers, product managers, engineers across 3 sites here in Dubai, in Karachi, and in Berlin. And over the next few minutes, I will take you through how working with AWS helped scale up our tech as our needs around data evolved over our journey. So let's go back to where it all started. The early days. We're talking 2012. We built a simple Java backend. We deployed it using Elastic Beanstalk in the cloud, and we had one single RDS database, MySQL. Now, pretty quickly, we realized that we're operating an always-on 24/7 service. We needed to be reliable. And with the click of a button, we enabled multi-availability zone, and we saw reliability be much higher. A few months later, we realized that we needed to scale out our read operations because they grew a lot faster than our write operations. And again, click of a button, and we built out a read replica hierarchy that we're still using today. And it's actually quite remarkable that this architecture served us for 2.5 years. Now, towards the end of 2014, we realized that the amounts of data that we were processing started growing significantly. And we also realized that data really come in two types. The type of data that is real-time, and you need to have super quick access to, and the type of data that you need for offline storage and processing. One example of this is the locations of our captains driving around. On the one hand, we need this data to be super live and easy accessible, so we can make choices around finding the closest captain, giving you an ETA, doing dispatching. And at the same time, we need all this historical data to process offline to get better at predicting demand, predicting supply, predicting traffic, doing dynamic pricing, etc. And we were getting up to the boundaries of our current architecture with only using RDS. So we opted for a structure where we used Elastic Cache for the real-time data and DynamoDB for offline storage. And at first, this was great. We were so happy. But after a little while, we realized that this introduced its own challenges. Mainly, previously, all the data was in one place. Now we had data in multiple different sources. And we had some of the data in databases or storage systems like Dynamo that wasn't really built for analytical purposes. So we had to come up with a solution. And this is really where we started working with data lakes. And using EMR, we built ETLs that on a daily basis pulled all the data from our different sources, put them into a data lake, one unified data lake. And we built this around an architecture where we separated storage from compute. We used S3 for storage, and we used EMR for compute. And I think this is an important point, the move to having a unified data lake, because this really allows you to use different data sources for different applications according to what is most suited for the need. And again, all of this was very readily available on AWS. Now, the next step in our evolution was when we wanted to really start using artificial intelligence and machine learning to improve our experiences, both for our customers and for our captains. You open your app, and the app tells you, I think you want to go over here. Or you open the app, and a car is actually close by because we have predicted that you're going to open the app and we should have a car close by. Or we also use artificial intelligence a lot in our efforts to combat fraud. Now, at the core of AI, you need data, and you need relevant data. So we started collecting even more data from even more data sources, diverse data. We collected from third-party tooling. We even collected offline data from our call center and care teams. And we started finding ourselves with really enormous amounts of data that you can see on the screen behind me. And the first question was, how are we going to handle this from an analytical point of view? And we opted for a model where we use Presto. And today, our colleagues can use Presto to query all the data across all our lakes and all our data warehouses in a single place. It is very cost effective because we use spot instances that scale up and down. And it allows for federated querying across all our different data sources. So you can really get all your analytical needs met. The second thing that happened was that we realized that these daily ETLs that we were so proud of, they were starting to feel old. That's not real-time enough. So we realized we need to start pulling data into the lakes on a more real-time basis. So we opted for ingesting the logs directly from Dynamo and from MySQL, from RDS, again using EMR and Spark streaming, so that we could get this really happening on a real-time basis. And we also realized that we need to empower our data scientists to be able to build, train, and deploy machine learning models as fast as possible, so that we can use machine learning in as many experiences as possible. And this led us to actually build our own machine learning platform called Yoda that we're using very heavily across our different use cases. And finally, looking ahead, the next step, we are already, of course, using streaming solutions like Kafka, but we want to truly move to a real true microservices architecture, where we don't have any dependencies on any databases, but it's truly streaming all across. So at Careem, we feel that we are really just getting started. And we're on the journey of building a true platform company. And with that, we need to really have the customer, a 360 view of the customer at the heart of everything we do, across all the different verticals, across all the different touch points. And this is the process that we are in, including offering this to third parties. So at the heart of this is data. And we even call 2019 the year of AI. And the ultimate vision is that the next product and the next service we launch is not just based on an amazing market opportunity, but is based and built upon all the data we have from other verticals that can allow us to build even new products and services. I am, and we are, super excited to continue our partnership with AWS in pursuit of our purpose of simplifying and improving lives of people in the region and building an awesome organization that inspires. Thank you very much for your attention. And please come join the journey. We are hiring. Yalla Careem.
Thank you, Magnus.
Thank you.
Congratulations once more on the acquisition. I think we're really proud always when companies that have grown up on our platform actually have such great success. Magnus already talked about it. I think increasingly ethics is becoming a really important part of every business. I think what cloud has done is create a complete egalitarian IT environment. You know, in the past, those large enterprises that had the biggest dollars in the bank could actually afford themselves the biggest IT environments. Cloud has completely taken that out. Now everyone has access to the same IT, the same storage, the same compute, the same databases, the same IoT, the same mobile development. So what becomes then the competitive differentiator? It's the data that you have and how smart you make use of the data that you've been collecting. On this egalitarian thing, there's a great article many years ago by Nick Carr, where he says, IT doesn't matter. Now, he didn't mean that IT didn't matter. What he meant was that if everyone has to do the same IT, then that is no longer a competitive differentiator. And you should not be doing it. And that's what we've been trying to do at AWS for you. Take all those pieces, all those heavy lifting pieces from you, so that you can focus truly on building better applications. Now, data plays an incredibly important role in that, and how you analyze that. And I always see analytics in 3 different pillars. One of them is looking backwards. You know, basically, data warehousing, making reports, using data to create a view of what has happened. The second pillar is that of real time. The redshifts take care of that part. Real time is all about what is my inventory level right now? Not yesterday, what is it now? And for that you need to have a real-time streaming infrastructure using Kinesis, EMR, Elasticsearch, tools like that. And then the third pillar, of course, is looking forward, making predictions. But we're really bad at making predictions. So the best thing that you can do, instead of having this crystal ball, is to make use of data from the past to try and make predictions about the future. And that's machine learning. But more importantly, I think all of us are doing this not just because we like technology, it's because there needs to be a business value with it. Because I think all companies are moving to a model of data-driven decision-making. And for that, you need to make sure you have exactly the right tools to be able to do what you need to do. And so in all these different areas, whether it's backwards-looking reporting, whether it's real-time analytics, or predictions about the future, we give you again this whole toolbox of services so that you can do exactly what you need to do. And whether that is using Redshift for traditional data warehousing, well, I say traditional. Redshift is anything but traditional. For example, Redshift Spectrum can run complex data warehouse queries on exabytes of data that you stored in S3. There's no other data warehouse in the world that can do this. And it's interesting to see how companies are switching the use of data warehousing because of the existence of Redshift. In the past, your data warehouse will be a massive centralized resource because it will be extremely expensive and you need to load it up to the max. Redshift, now business units by themselves can create a data warehouse for 3 hours on a Thursday afternoon and then switch it off again. And as such, business units now get access to whatever they want, whatever analytics they want to run, without being dependent on a centralized, expensive data warehouse. And on November 1st of last year, I claimed it was my happiest day of last year when we switched out one of the world's largest data warehouses in Amazon the retailer and moved from Oracle over to Redshift. Second, real-time streaming, equally important. Kinesis gives you all the different tools for that, and whether you want to use our video streams or Kinesis Firehose, or doing analytics while you're streaming, or if you want to run Kafka, make sure that you have a managed environment for you where we manage Kafka for you instead of that you have to do that. In all of this, data lakes play an important role. You may have data sources in many different locations, but you may want to start storing sort of the lineage of all that data in your data lake so that you can run analytics over it. And as such, I really think, so that these cloud data lakes are truly the future. And the core in all of that is Amazon S3. This is the first service we ever launched. And over time, we've demonstrated that it has immediately effect on durability, reliability, and scale for you, as those are issues that you no longer have to think about. However, if you need to build a data lake, it's not just the storage engine that you care about. It's actually how do you ingest? How do you clean your data? How do you label your data? How can you make sure that only those individuals with the right rights have access to the data that you have available for analytics? And so for that, you probably need to use 6, 7, or 8 different AWS services and stitch them together to create your data lake. Now, given that so many of our customers have been doing that, we decided to actually give you a mechanism for doing all this building and managing these data lakes, which is called AWS Lake Formation. But basically, it's a solution that makes use of all these different AWS services to give you a complete data lake and manage that for you, including all the security capabilities to make sure that individuals only have access to that data that the administration permits them to. Now, if I think about one of the interesting, successful companies here in the region, it's Ngami. Yeah, they built a streaming platform for music in the Middle East and North Africa with over 75 million customers, 26 million songs. And they run an increasingly complex queries on literally trillions of records. And they built a data warehouse on Amazon Redshift, achieving high throughput and sub-second response time. It's a pleasure to have with me on stage Ali Habib, the co-founder of Ngami. Ali.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Wow, the room is amazing. Thank you for having me here. My name is Ali Habib. I'm the co-founder of Ngami. We're currently the largest streaming service in the region. We've been working over here for just about 6 years and a bit, 7 years. We started to have a dream. We thought that we could redefine the music in the region. That was our dream. Today, we have 75 million users, over 1.7 million paying customers, which we love a lot. But to get that, it took a lot of time. Today, we have over 30 million songs in our library, every song in multiple qualities. We have over 100,000 videos. So it took a while to get there. But how do we start is the example that I want to talk about. And I'm mostly proud about my team behind me, that we built everything with that team. When we started, we were 6 people. The first year, we estimated that we're going to get 330,000 users on our platform. That's what our VCs told us would be like a big, bold number. It was cool. We actually got 1 million users in the first 3 months only. It was like, wow, it was amazing. It was a great thing, till it wasn't actually, because we had a lot of issues. So basically, traffic spiked on every new music releases. We were launching servers, metal servers, as fast as possible. Well, just about as fast as the 24 hours to 48-hour turnaround window allows it. Our first TV ad was such a great success. I actually never saw it. I was firefighting a crashed RAID 1, or was it a RAID 5 disk? Can't remember anymore. So reliability was affecting us. We were doing good, but retention was a problem. We could not scale properly if we cannot retain our users. That would be good to count users, but you want them to stay. So basically, anytime a Nancy Ajram or Drake would release a song, would be prone to failure, would be prone to actually having problems. We decided that we really, from the get-go, we needed to learn. We needed to be able to measure everything, evaluate, and then iterate to fix our things. We also had lots of parties depending on us. We're connected to multiple labels. Currently, over 100,000 actually labels deliver music to us. Yeah, that's how music is complicated. And we had lots of mobile operators, currently connected to 29 mobile operators. And we were trying to do that on metal servers, and it wasn't working out. So we started using to AWS, switching to AWS in March, roughly with about 1 million users available on our platform. We decided that the clouds should be the next bit to do. In that time, we had no cloud experience. We didn't know what is the cloud. As I said, we were 7 people at the time, but we decided that we should do it. 1 month in, we replicated everything. We had We had everything moved in. Our MySQL database moved to RDS. It was just fine. Our code just moved to EC2 instances. We found S3 to be great because we could actually put in the structure or our music files on S3 and eventually stream them from CloudFront. We realized that it just all adds up for us in terms of ELB load structure would actually allow us to scale quite fast. That did make a lot of sense. We actually enjoyed SQS and Elasticache because they made a lot of difference. Everything became cute from the beginning. So those are small things that we did at the beginning, and it was simply moving an old platform to the cloud. And again, we did it in just a month. So then, came the real scale, the real problems. I mean, we realized after a couple of years that while we were doing things, we had to reimagine our infrastructure to the cloud. First came the copy, but now it's reimagining. So it's not just moving things around, but just actually adapting properly to the scale that we had correctly. So Redshift, we learned to fall in love with Redshift. Literally, because Redshift made a lot of difference with us. We still rely on Redshift tremendously till that day, and probably for a long time. We also switched to almost exclusively using Aurora out of MySQL. I mean, we don't use MySQL plain anymore. Aurora is the case because we thought it beats MySQL any time of the day if you just learn how to love read replicas. Tiny things, but once you start adopting them, make a lot of difference. And we actually started scaling. So something that used to take 5 hours, literally a query that used to take 5 hours that affects 2 billion records, now takes 5 minutes. 5 minutes, and we get to 13.7 trillion, that's not a typo, records per day. That's how hard machine learning is at scale. After scaling came what we'd like to call the savings. It's like, because when we work at speed, when you have to scale a company just fast, very fast, sometimes you don't get to actually size properly. So we do stuff, but then we realize that no, I mean, we were not using the right tools. We confused between scaling and proper planning, because then it will become like bad scaling. So we were actually told by AWS expert that you should actually try different new services. I'm an engineer. I love to tour around new services. I once toured around with a new service on production, but that's for a different day. We discovered, but though we were not doing, we were good in our comfort zone, but we needed to actually do better. So we started using different services, such as DynamoDB. DynamoDB made tremendous difference, as Dr. Vogels was mentioning. It did actually help us not just doing scale, but doing lots of savings. So something like a real query that I pulled, it affects 126 million items per day, and it cost us just $56. So it's actually created a lot of things for us. But there are many services that we're using right now that we weren't using before, and I don't want to really overwhelm you with everything. But EKS made a lot of difference. We started using EKS only months and a bit ago, and that has made a lot of difference for us. It provided already impressive savings, and we're clearly moving everything to EKS. Containers mean that every developer would actually have a proper toolkit that contains everything he needs just to code and spin to a real environment from his own desktop. And that reduces time to market. That's how we can spin new services quite fast, and we keep on really innovating. We also started using Lambda. Lambda in the cloud is amazing because it's actually allowing us to create new services directly on Lambda with bypassing EC2, because that takes a lot of unlearning to realize that you can actually write on Lambda directly and not actually write code, then write on Lambda, then move it to Lambda. So over the past few months also, we're starting experimenting with Neptune. Neptune is an AWS Graph database. It actually is allowing us right now to connect people together, which is part of our vision, part of what we want to do on music, because we believe music, the social aspect of music is essential. Today and next, what we love to do is actually, give developers more time to focus on innovating by using all the new services that are being launched. And we'd like to focus on spreading music, getting to more people, giving music to them, like Danny Aridi that you probably saw playing around at the beginning of the summit, and he will going to play later. But also we have today on the platform roughly 3 million artists that we're actually pushing to. So it's not just Danny, but Danny is one that is available here for you to play. But also, because of innovation, we're able to actually introduce more breadth to our platform. And just a few days ago, we launched Game of Thrones on Anghami with Wavo. We actually powered the entire platform and launched it in a few days. That's probably going to be a story for some other day, but we literally launched an entire video platform based on the concept that we do, that we can launch something very fast, and I'm extremely proud of my team to do that. Thank you, everyone. What I want to tell you right now, what are you going to build? What are you going to create for the region? Make us proud. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, thank you.
Dr. Vogel.
Great story, great success story also. It's really proud in helping young businesses grow to incredible size. Not only that, I think they're really laudable now to also have a platform which allows you to discover music and allows musicians to get in front of their customers, which before that would never have been possible. And artists like Danny that you saw at the beginning of the summit now suddenly have a platform to reach a whole, almost worldwide audience, and it's amazing. So I talked about these 3 different pillars, and I think that third pillar is really how to make predictions, how to make smart use of your data. And that's machine learning. So basically, data sets are growing in a way that it's no longer humanly possible to sort of inspect that data and as a human find the patterns in there that may be relevant for you. Because I like to think that as humans, we're pretty biased towards the past and have a hard time finding new patterns in there. For example, most e-commerce operations, including Amazon, sit literally on billions of orders from the past. And you know exactly which of those orders were fraudulent and which ones were not. And so you can easily build a model that then when a new order comes in, you can give it a score, what the likelihood is that this is also a fraudulent order. And then you don't automatically throw it away, but you give it to a human to investigate. So this is basically making smart use of data from the past. Importantly, of course, is that these fraud patterns are changing over time. And you need to account for that in the models that you build. And that's no longer humanly possible. And that's why we have machines that actually try and look for these patterns and then build models out of that. Now, our goal is to take machine learning out of the hands of the few that have been doing it in the past, the data scientists, and put it in the hands of every developer and every data scientist. And we have a long history at Amazon, the retailer, for example, of making use of machine learning. Probably every consumer-facing feature at Amazon is driven by machine learning, whether that is recommendations or similarities or abusive review detection or counterfeit good detection, but also things in the back end like vendor lead time or price setting and all of these things are driven by machine learning. So we have a very long history in this, and we know exactly what were the things that actually were sort of holding us back from even using it more. And of course, we also do major innovations, like Primary, the Amazon Go store, Alexa, also all driven by machine learning in a much bigger way, of course, than sort of these smaller pieces that we would like to do everywhere. Now, many of our customers are making use of machine learning and running this on AWS. Yeah, it's absolutely something that every company is looking at the moment. As I said earlier, data is becoming your competitive differentiation. And you need the help of machines to find the patterns in there that you then might apply to become more efficient, more safe, maybe think about building new products or improving other products. All of those driven by machine learning. And for example, OpenSouk.com, which is one of the largest classified sites here in the Middle East, have been using TensorFlow in AWS and seen a 5x performance improvement in ad validation and recognition. When we think about getting machine learning in the hands of every developer and every data scientist, you need a new stack. In the past, machine learning was really the domain of data scientists. And really, they develop their own unique algorithms. And it's still very important. Yeah, so you need to make sure that in this new stack, data scientists, smart engineers, and application developers are all getting access to their version of machine learning. So at the lowest layers of that stack, targeting machine learning, targeting data scientists, really may need to make sure that they have access to the absolute best, fastest hardware, and the P3 instances absolutely give that to our customers. At the same time, you need to make sure that all these data science frameworks run really well as well. And so whether you want to run TensorFlow or MaxNet or Torch or Caffe or any of those other frameworks, they all need to run really well on AWS, and we give you a machine learning image to make that really easy for you. It's actually really the choice of platform for running TensorFlow. And the story is that about 85% of all TensorFlow workloads run on AWS. And as such, we've been working hard on making sure that TensorFlow really well scales well. And as you can see, we've made major improvements to TensorFlow to make sure it is becoming as efficient as that you can. And so this efficiency scaling is huge by using TensorFlow on AWS. A significant part, however, of the whole cost of running machine learning is in actually building an inference platform. So that's the environment where you run your model in. And as such, we built a new service called Elastic Inference. And actually later this year, I hope, we'll be delivering a new chip, AWS Inferentia, that will actually majorly drive the cost down for everyone that actually wants to run their own machine learning models. But more importantly, there are not enough data scientists in the world to do the things that you need to do. Plus, data scientists have the tendency to build new algorithms. Yet, there are so many challenges out there or problems out there for which you do not need to develop a new algorithm. You can just pick one out of a toolbox. And that's what AWS SageMaker helps you do. It essentially takes away all the heavy lifting of machine learning and allows you to focus on picking the algorithm, cleaning your data, labeling your data, picking an algorithm, having it train until you get the accuracy that you actually like, and then deploy it without having to think about it. Basically, taking away all the heavy lifting around it and make sure that this can be used by any engineer that has good insights on what these algorithms do. We even give you a marketplace that has algorithms that you can actually vend to other customers. So in SageMaker, first of all, you start off with really getting your data into the cloud, building a model that you want to build, using Jupyter notebooks, using ground truth to label your data. And then you need to be able, with one click of a button, to train your data with that algorithm. Now, in essence, training is a really brute force, dumb process. You basically train over and over again with a different set of parameters until you get an accuracy that you like. And then once you've done that, you need to be able also, with one click of a button, deploy it. And in a typical serverless AWS fashion, you don't have to worry where that model runs. We'll take care of that for you. We'll give you an API for real-time querying or for batch querying. And we'll make sure it runs over multiple availability zones so that you get high availability. And there's literally tens of thousands of customers that are already making use of SageMaker, being able to really move fast when it comes to machine learning. So Aramax is a provider of logistics and transportation solutions here in the region. And the company uses machine learning, SageMaker, to train the models and to predict transit times for shipments. And it has improved their accuracy by 74%. And really, you don't need data scientists for this. You just make use of machine learning and have engineers that have a good understanding of what these algorithms do actually execute machine learning for you. Now then there's a whole other set of customers that we have. Basically developers that don't want to run algorithms. They don't want to create their own models. They just want to have a pre-built model out of the box. And so for those, we built a whole collection of AI services. On one hand, that sits around sort of media, which is imagery, video, text processing, audio processing, all of those we have pre-built model for. And whether it's around vision and sort of object detection or actually when you have video, or when you think about speech and language. On one hand of that is the input into it, which is automatic speech recognition and natural language understanding, which sits in Lex. And on the other hand, we have Polly. And Polly is text-to-speech. And it's actually really funny because in the description of Polly, you don't only put the text that you want to have spoken, but you can annotate it in all sorts of ways to make it whisper, or to be really angry, or to have a pause. And so you can do it. It's great fun to program Polly. And so Polly has voices in over 50 different languages. And I'm very happy to announce that today it is also available in Arabic. So Zina, say hello to the audience.
مرحبا، اسمي زينة، أنا الصوت العربي في أمازون بولي، سعدت بلقائكم.
So many of them are using these voice services to create new interfaces to their customers. The region, Emirates, MBD, one of the largest banks here in the region, are creating a whole new voice-driven interface towards their customers, making use of Amazon Polly. And another a very important use of Polly is by Duolingo. If you want to learn foreign languages, Duolingo is one of the ways to go. And you can imagine that if a language learning app is making use of your speech to text, it must be really, really good. And there are so many edge conditions that in a language to make it really clearly understandable. And there are so many tongue twisters. Let's listen to Zina again.
والعود دندن دن لي والطبل طبطب طب لي.
It's hard, yeah? Imagine you write down a number. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. Is that a number? Is that 1 trillion whatever? Or is it a telephone number? Yeah? All of these things is things that you need to be able to annotate. and make sure that it's spoken in the right way, that it's understandable for your customers. So things coming out of the retail world, we've taken onto AWS as well. So I said earlier, one of the earliest things that we did at AWS to really make sure that we could have, at Amazon, to make sure that we would have an individual page for each and every one of our customers to make use of recommendations. Yeah? And so we've launched earlier Amazon Personalized, that gives you a recommendation engine, and as well Amazon Forecast, that helps you with forecasting business logic. To help you with all of this, we've created the Amazon ML Solutions Lab. It's basically connecting you with experts within Amazon and within AWS to help your business think about where should we be applying machine learning? How do we get the business output that we're looking for? Yeah, and it's really good at brainstorming, helping you think about data, what kind of data sources do you need, and really make sure that sort of you have the right suggestions about what you should be doing with machine learning. We also make sure that you can get the right education. So the Amazon Machine Learning University gives you all sorts of coursework to make sure that you can really understand what's the best way to apply machine learning in the real world. And we also do fun things. You know, we've launched at one moment Deep Lens. There was a camera which you could experiment with vision algorithms. And recently, we launched AWS Deep Racer, which is a car that does reinforcement learning, such that you can build your own autonomous driving algorithms, making use of SageMaker. Well, if you've been into the expo hall, you probably already see that we're running there the Deep Racer League, and where these cars can compete against each other with the algorithms that you've built for it. By the way, let's take a look at the video about Deep Racer.
Hello everyone, I'm Ryan Marine. These are 1/18th scale RC cars that are fully autonomous thanks to reinforcement learning.
So yeah, please check out in the expo hall Deep Racer later on. We're committed to giving you environments in which you can learn about how to best use machine learning. And there is no better way to learn and to have fun at the same time and compete for great prizes. So if you want to learn more about that, go to AI.aws, not only machine learning, not only about Deep Racer, but all the different AI services that we're delivering to you. Well, I know this has already been quite a few, well, almost 2 hours, and allowed you for being able to sit through this. I hope we gave you a bit of an idea where we are with AWS, and I hope that you stay around and pick out many of the technical sessions to do some real deep learning there. And I hope you have a great day, and go build.